Hey, coaches. I have a talk about video here that I wanted to drop in. Had a good mentor coaching session this week where the feedback to the coach was essentially around the idea of not missing out on using client language when that client language is negative. It's a very common thing when we hear negative language. We sometimes move away from it or flip the perspective, and sometimes coach trainings focus on how do you flip that perspective. However, I have seen this kind of backfire or demonstrate a little bit less empathy. I have, or I used to run assessments for BetterUp, hundreds of assessments of coaches with BetterUp, and one of the things we did was it was a kind of a run through of a simulation of a coaching session, and my bit was to use the word challenge. That I needed to overcome like this challenge with empathy that I had. Everyone in the company that I'm working with is really empathetic, and they talk about sports, they connect with life, but I connect just by doing work together. It was that kind of persona that I was putting on, and the that keyword of challenge. This demonstrating empathy, like being empathetic the same way they are. It's going to be a real challenge, and so often the coach in the simulation was would say something like, "Well, what if you just saw this challenge as an opportunity?" And like I said, it's a very common thing for coaches to do where you're trying to get the client to see something in a new light. However, I like the word challenge. Whenever I say the word challenge, it is a good thing. It is a positive thing. It's something to overcome, it is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for growth. So that's how I use the word challenge. And I always felt just a little bit corrected in that moment whenever I was doing the simulation. Anytime I've done or been coached and I use that phrase and the coach might use that move, it feels just a little bit corrective. And you see the same thing with negative self-talk. A client might say, this is pretty stupid, or I know I sound stupid here. And the coach might say, oh, no, don't worry about that. No, you make complete sense. Or this sounds crazy. That was something that was said this week. Or I don't, fixed mindsets. I'm not the kind of person who is able to achieve X. Or my company will never allow a person like me to grow in this way. Fixed mindsets, negative self-talk. We're not talking major negative self-talk, but just like hard talk and negative talk generally, and fixed mindset. Oftentimes coaches go in quick to those things and flip them. How might we see this from a growth perspective? If you were able to overcome this challenge, if you were able to overcome the obstacles that you face in your organization, how would you do so? How might you look at the nature of the company from a different angle, and all that kind of stuff. So my main point of this video is don't miss out on the opportunity to leverage some of that language that shows up that makes you a bit uncomfortable, but is a part of the client's perspective. If the client says, this is a really stupid idea, be careful about contradicting that and almost demanding the client make it a brilliant idea. And don't be afraid to use the word stupid, not to agree with them. Like, yeah, I would agree, it's stupid. Or what makes you stupid? That would be a question that agrees with the premise. But to say, why such a strong word as stupid? That's looking under the rock and leveraging that hard language. When a client especially articulates a fixed mindset or a perspective about themselves that's harder, negative, that they want to move away from, don't be afraid to hold on to that persona, that part of the self, the fixed perspective of the self, for future reference. So at the beginning of the session, the client says, I'm really having a hard time speaking up. I'm just not a political person in the organization. I can't play politics, and I'm just going to be a failure. I'm just going to be stuck in this position as a mid-level manager for the rest of my life. So negative language might be stuck, like not able to do politics. Someone who's going to be a mid-level manager for the rest of their lives. That's the language of that persona or perspective. We could leverage that rather than correcting it. The goal, well, that's something for the client to articulate. So from this perspective of being a bit stuck as mid-level manager, what do you need from our conversation to move forward? What do you need? What do you want? What do you want this to become? What do you want to see change in yourself, in your situation? And so who they want to become, maybe director self. So director Brian instead of mid-level Brian. The mid-level Brian is stuck. Director level Brian is influential, but not political. Now you have two characters. You have the protagonist or the hero of the story, heroine, and the antagonist, or more the foil. I don't like to say the antagonist like the down perspective is the bad thing. It's kind of the down perspective, the foil to who the person wants to become. To say, let's throw that away, let's only look at who you want to become is a true missed opportunity in your coaching. Consider from time to time allowing the foil to show back up, maybe in the middle of the session, at the end of the session. That director level Brian, what would he say to the stuck mid-level manager of today? I'm not saying to the high potential person today, I'm just acknowledging that that's the perspective of the day. If we say at the end of a session we're stupid and crazy and incompetent, maybe those were some of the words at the very beginning. And then by the end of the session, the client's realizing that they need to find support and not necessarily training, but support and someone to be an advocate for them so that they know that they're more competent. They have confidence in their competence. So I don't say, okay, how can we move forward with the confident and competent person and not at all look at the foil? Maybe I bring the foil back in, the down perspective, the somewhat fixed mindset perspective. At the very beginning, you were talking about your ideas as crazy and stupid, and now you've got this vision of having someone advocating for you, supporting you. What's it like on this end of the conversation? We're not saying that was correct. We're just recognizing that's where the client was, or that's where the client might return. Right? Next time you have that phrase go through your mind, this is stupid, this is crazy. What do you want to remember in that moment? Main point of this talk through video is just to say, don't leave the negative language on the table. Don't leave the fixed mindset language on the table. That's a part of who the client is. It's part of their history, maybe. It's part of who they were at the beginning of the session. It's one of those things that will show up after the session as a doubt, a concern that they have in the future. So we want to talk about that as we explore future progress. Hope this rambling makes a bit of sense. Thank you all. Hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for coaching.